I am also rising today to ask unanimous consent from my colleagues to pass other legislation, S2129, a bipartisan bill that I have co-authored with my colleague from Ohio, Senator Sherrod Brown. It honors a young man named Otto Warmbier, and it counters North Korea's censorship and surveillance state. Otto Warmbier was a native of my hometown in Cincinnati, Ohio, and his wonderful family are dear friends. He was a young man of great spirit, great intellect, and great promise. He was a student, a star at the University of Virginia. In 2015, he went to North Korea with a tour group. It was a cultural visit with people from the United States, from Europe, looking to see what North Korea was like. They were there for a very brief period of time, but at the end of that brief visit, as he was waiting in line at the airport to leave with fellow members of the tour, North Korean security officials grabbed him and pulled him out of line. He was detained, and then eventually he was sentenced for 15 years on trumped-up charges relating to whether or not he tried to take down a poster that was a political poster. 15 years. Otto Warmbier, again, a young man of great promise, was unjustly convicted and imprisoned. And during a 17-month period of imprisonment, captivity, he was badly mistreated by the North Koreans, to the point that when he was returned to the United States in 2017, he came back in a comatose state from which he never recovered. Otto Warmbier died almost exactly 5 years ago today, June 19th, 2017. He was 22 years old, his whole life ahead of him. So 5 years ago, life changed forever for Otto's friends, for his parents, his classmates. His service, his funeral was extraordinary, the outpouring of love. His parents, Fred and Cindy, have taken their grief and done something very constructive with it. They have focused on exposing what North Korea is really like, and also ensuring that to the extent possible, North Korea is held accountable for this atrocity. No parent should have to endure what they went through. I've worked with Senators Brown, Coons, Tillis, Van Hollen, and Haggerty, as well as the Warmbiers, as well as the Biden administration on this legislation. It's called the Otto Warmbier North Korea Censorship and Surveillance Act. It would authorize sanctions against any foreign individuals involved in censoring the North Korean people's access to information on behalf of the Kim Jong-un regime. Of course, the North Koreans aren't getting the truth because information is censored. So it's very important to get whatever real news you can into the country. When that happens, what you find out is that people leave North Korea and then work against the regime. But so many people don't have access to that information. So this bill authorizes the United States Agency for Global Media to find new and creative ways to circumvent North Korean censorship and provides $10 million annually for the next 5 years to counter North Korea's repressive censorship and surveillance state, including something very practical and needed, which is repairing the antennas that have been used for this purpose that were damaged in a typhoon a few years ago and have never been fixed because we haven't had the funding. This bill has adequate funding to put in place the infrastructure that is now going to be necessary to effectively send true, accurate information into North Korea to counter North Korean propaganda for the sake of the people of North Korea. Together, this chamber can send a bipartisan message to the world that we will not stand for the censorship and the repression of the North Korean regime. So I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. It's something we have worked on carefully. We've gotten technical assistance from the administration something that I hope we can pass here this evening, and then we can, in turn, get it passed in the House of Representatives and get it to the President for his signature. So, Mr. President, I would now like to call up this legislation. As if in legislative session, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to immediate consideration of the calendar number 159 S2129.
The clerk will report.
Calendar number 159 S2129, a bill to promote freedom of information and counter censorship and surveillance in North Korea and for other purposes.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent that the committee reported substitute amendment be agreed to and that the bill as amended be considered read a third time.
Without objection.
I know of no further debate on the bill as amended.
If there's no further debate, the question is on passage of the bill as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill as amended is passed.
I ask unanimous consent that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an important day for Otto Warmbier's family, for so many people who care about the repression and the lack of information going into North Korea, and I thank my colleagues for supporting this legislation. I yield back my time.